Welcome to Kingdom Conversations, where faith meets community.
Let us pray. Father, we are grateful and we thank you that we can testify that you are blessing us right now. You're blessing us with your presence, your power, your comfort. Lord, the Bible declares wherever your spirit is, there is liberty. We thank you, Lord, for breaking bondages, setting us free. Even in these turbulent times, giving us the reminder that you're still in control. You're the sovereign God. That all things are working together for our good, for those who are called according to your purpose. Father, we trust and rely on it. Bless us now, Lord, as we share this time together in your word. We pray, God, that you would make us not only hearers, but doers also. Lord, have your perfect way. In Jesus' name, amen. To God be the glory. To him be all the praise, for he is worthy. We do honor our Reverend clergy, to all of our members and all of our visitors, to the Omega Men. We're grateful to have you share with us today. It's our pleasure to have you with us. We're also grateful to have with us all the way from Liberia. Rose, thank you for coming and sharing with us. She's here doing some work with the UN, being trained by the UN, and I was in Liberia a few weeks ago, and her sister, Kristen, works with Hope for Liberia. So I missed her in Liberia, so she came all the way here just to see us. So we're grateful for your presence. Thank you, choir, for blessing us. And I'm gonna try not to be long. I'm gonna cut through the cornfield again and hurry and get you out of here. But I want to call your attention to the text that was read in your hearing. I preached from this text this morning, Matthew chapter 27, verse 23. And if I read verse 22, put it in context. Pilate saith unto them who brought Jesus to him for trial. In verse 22, he asked a question, what do I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? And they all said unto him, let him be crucified. This morning at 8 o'clock, verse 23, and the governor said unto the crowd, asked the question, why? And we just dealt with that one word, why? But what captures my attention is something I grapple with when I look at the text. He says in verse 23, the governor said, why? And then he finished the question with this, what evil hath he done? I want to ponder that just for a moment. What evil hath he done? There's a lot of people that you know that people say a lot of things about them. People you know and people you might be friends with. And it might be some gossip. It might be something you see on social media about them, and you know them in a different way. And you have to ask the question, what evil have they done? I took my wife out to dinner the other night, and I walked in, and as soon as I walked in the door, someone accosted me and start talking to me about politics and start saying to me what the Republicans say about me. And I want to know I was very disinterested. But I wondered to myself, but what evil hath I done? Our text shows us a record of the most evil and unjust event in human history. It's hard to believe when you read it that men can be so calculated in their cruelty. It's even harder to believe that men, especially people who can be religious, can be so evil. When you read the context, a lot of things have already happened in the life of Jesus and how quickly things can change. Satan had already put it into the heart of Judas to betray Christ. Judas had already sold Jesus out for 30 silver coins. Judas had already betrayed Jesus with a kiss, and the disciples had already forsaken him. And Peter had already denied him. Jesus had been arrested and taken not to one court, but 6 courts. 3 of the courts were religious, and 3 of the courts were civil. 3 were before the high priest and the Sanhedrin council, and 3 were before the Roman government. In the 3 religious courts, Jesus was found guilty each time. Before the civil courts of the Roman government, 3 times he was found innocent. It amazes me how we who are church folk can be so judgmental, have the same problems that we condemn others for.
My name is Reverend Collins Day. He's the pastor of the Second Baptist Church in Atlantic City, New Jersey. If you're looking for a church home, a place to reconnect, a great place of fellowship, join us at Second Baptist Church here in Atlantic City, where everyone is welcome and the love of Christ is alive. Our Sunday worship services are 8 a.m., 11 a.m., and don't miss our evening 7 p.m. hour of power, a dynamic time of praise, worship, and encouragement. Midweek, refuel your spirit with corporate prayer. Wednesday at 11 a.m., Newsday service at 12 p.m., Bible study at 7 p.m. We're located 110 Reverend Dr. I.S. Cole Plaza, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Call us 609-348-3580 or email us at secondbaptistac@gmail.com. Please come. We're looking forward to having you. You'll never be the same. Find us if you like on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll see you at Second Baptist.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kingdom Conversations. We're really grateful that you took the time to be a part of our conversation today. We have a great guest today, and first of all, before I even go any further, I want to thank Elon Edwards for last week for standing in my stead and hosting Kingdom Conversations in interviewing one of his mentors,
our good friend, Reverend Archibald. And it was a really great interview, and I hope that you were blessed and enjoyed it. And I want to welcome today our guest, who has some very interesting information that all of us need to be aware of. Greg Sayer, Vice President of Solid Waste at ACUA. Welcome, Greg, to Kingdom Conversations.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Greg, everybody in the county, we are beneficiaries of the work that you do, the great work you do at ACUA, Solid Waste. That's the garbage collection and disposal for the county. And so he is the VP, the man in charge. And we're talking to the head honcho, or one of the head honchos for waste management. And so we want to just tell us a little bit about it and how long you've been a part of ACUA.
So I've been there coming on 20 years in April. So it's hard to believe it's gone that quickly, but I started out actually in the scale house, weighing the trucks that come in, and eventually moved up into sort of project management, and through there into the maintenance department a little bit, and then director of operations, and just this past year was promoted to vice president of solid waste. So 20 years experience throughout the organization, touching on a lot of different things that we do. So, for those that aren't really aware of what goes on at the ACUA, you see our trucks probably around the county picking up your trash and your recycling, yard waste, that sort of stuff. We operate the landfill for the county, and also a recycling center, a compost facility at that site. We have a wastewater plant also, which you see in Atlantic City with windmills. That's kind of a little more visual that people know about that place. They don't necessarily know it's a wastewater treatment plant, but that's what it is. But I'm on the solid waste side. So we take in all the trash and recycling that come in from the county. And, a lot of people, you put it at the curb and it disappears, right? It's one of those magic things that we're really blessed with in the United States, that we don't have to think about it. You put it all in a big can and it goes away. And hopefully we're sorting our recycling out. We sometimes do a good job of that, sometimes not. But both those are collected by us. We take the recycling in, we ship it up to Tinton Falls. Mazda Recycling is currently our partner. And they process all the materials up there, separate the glasses and the plastics and all that sort of stuff, and send them out to markets. The trash goes into our landfill. So the landfill began operations in the early 90s, and it's the only landfill in the county. Prior to us, going back in the 70s and 80s, there was over 40 landfills in the county, and they were unlined landfills, meaning it's just a hole in the ground. Most people know about Price's Pit, right? That was a horrible environmental disaster, one of the worst in the country. And there was actually 3 Price's Pits in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, Pleasantville, just complete disasters where the groundwater was contaminated from all the chemicals that were going in there. So that's kind of why the ACUA was created to begin with, right? When we were charged with handling the waste, is have an accountable organization. We answer to the county commissioners, the county executive, and as a result, we answer to all the municipalities in Atlantic County. So we do it properly. We have it's a double-line modern landfill, so there's layers of geosynthetic material that prevent contamination of the groundwater, and it's the modern version of how we handle waste. In the United States, really, we handle waste 2 ways. You either burn it, so you see up in Newark and Camden they have incinerators, or we put in a landfill. And there's about a dozen landfills in New Jersey, and they're all, as you can imagine, compressed for space here, as we are with everything in New Jersey because we're such a tightly populated state. So we've been handling waste since the early 90s. And initially, we just started with construction debris. What that means is, you think of brick and concrete, that sort of stuff, blocks and wood, because our site is very close to the Atlantic City Airport. And most people don't kind of think about this combination, but if you have a lot of food waste out, it attracts birds. Think out of a dumpster outside McDonald's, there's always seagulls there. So we couldn't put the putrescible waste, the food waste, in our landfill at first because we didn't want birds around the airport. Obviously, everyone knows that you get a bird strike on an airplane, that is not very good. But after several years, we kind of came up with the idea, let's do it at night. The birds are roosting, they're sleeping at night, so they won't be attracted to the waste. And it's been a very successful project for us since, the early 2000s that we've been doing it. And we did it on a temporary demonstration basis first. We had a wildlife biologist come from Canada, from the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, gave us, instructions on who we actually need to hire, along with the FAA. They kind of gave us all input. If you're going to do this, you have to have the experts there. So we had an expert fly in from Canada, set up this program where we monitor the birds. And it's been very successful. We haven't had any bird issues. We have a wildlife biologist on staff every day. He drives around the landfill and monitors for birds, so we don't have to worry about that. So now we take all waste in during the day, goes in our transfer station. At night, we haul up the waste to the landfill. And, it's people put it at the curb, but they forget about it. But something happened 24/7 really, and we have guys up in the landfill. You think when we had those snowstorms at night or just the heavy rains and wind, there's guys up there working, burying your trash and making sure that this essential public service gets handled.
I think it's important, as you say, we put our trash out and we don't know what happens to it. We don't even care, and hopefully we won't see it again, but it's a very important function. You started talking earlier about recycling.
Yeah.
And how important is recycling, and what percentage do households recycle in Atlantic County?
So, we usually see around 20 to 30% recycling, depending on the municipality. And some of that accounts for yard waste too. So that counts as recycling when you're putting your leaves and brush into a compost that we have on site as opposed to the landfill. But, it's really important because, the landfill is finite, right? So it'll fill up. The more stuff you put in there, the less space we have. So if you can divert your cans, your bottles, and your plastics, your papers, that saves space. And it's also an economic factor too, right? So, our municipalities pay about $82 a ton to landfill that waste. If it's recycling, they're saving money on that. They are not paying $82 a ton to recycle. There is a cost to recycling, but the municipalities do not get charged that. And that is mostly processing costs. And again, recycling is an interesting market because the values of those commodities change. Think about anything else. You talk about the price of oil and gold or silver, plastics and aluminum and paper. They're similar. So they are commodities where the prices change. So that cost is variable, but it's cheaper than landfilling for certain. So you're saving money and you're conserving space for the actual stuff that we, at least right now, can't or won't recycle. I mean, you can really recycle just about everything if you want to do it. And that's kind of the other question is how much are we willing to actually effort put in to make sure we don't just throw stuff away?
You talked about, as we know, that trash is a constant thing, that we're putting out trash, every day, and the landfill is finite. What is the plans and what is the lifespan of our landfill?
Okay. Yeah, so currently we are permitted through a capacity through 2029, so that gives us about 3 years left of capacity. Commissioner, as you know, I call you Commissioner now, Commissioner on the Freeholder Board Commissioner Board in Atlantic County. You recently approved our plan for an expansion through 2040. That still has to go through the Department of Environmental Protection. They'll review it on the technical aspects. But that, again, will get us capacity through 2040, which is, significant. That's, about 14 years from now. It gives us a lot more time to plan out for other endeavors. And it's not a uncommon thing. All landfills go for capacity expansions. Burlington County just had one last year, so it happens pretty frequently. It's not the first time we've done an expansion of our landfill, and in reality, the landfill expands every day. That the more trash you put on it, and so this expansion it's pretty much straightforward. So we're going 40 feet higher. That might seem like a lot. We're about 140 feet right now. We'll go up to 180. You won't see it from anywhere new. It's not like it's going to be some huge mountain any more than it is now. And it still will be one of the lowest in the state. We currently are the lowest height in the state for landfills, and we'll still be, the middle to the lower end of other landfills in the state. And we're going to capture a little area on the side of our landfill. So we're kind of interesting. We're bound by a couple wetlands and by the Garden State Parkway. And, if you could see a map of our landfill from above, you would see where it makes sense where this expansion is going in. It kind of like there's a little divot along the parkway, and that's just wasted space that won't go for anything else. You're not going to build anything there. So we figured let's capture that, and that gets us, 7-8 years plus another few more years with the height expansion.
Yeah, but when you look at it, I had the opportunity to see it.
Yeah.
You're not really talking about going out that far.
Right.
It's really just going up and filling, you said, like a divot. So that's very interesting that when you look at that, it is, and that'll expand the lifespan of the landfill for 14 years.
So it'll get us out to 2040, yes.
To 21, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So how much tonnage will that take?
Well, it kind of depends on what goes in, but we typically are getting in trying to remember my numbers here now. We're getting in, 1,400 tons a day. So you do the math on that. That'll get you out through.
That's a lot of trash.
Yeah, through 2040.
But you also have some very interesting and unique and innovative things that's happening at the landfill that I think people need to be aware of. You got a gas plant there, and so tell us about that, and how does that generate funds as well,
right?
And help with the budget for the landfill.
Yeah. So going back all the way to about 2005, we started collecting gas from our landfill. And that was sort of a voluntary thing.
Now, what kind of gas is it?
Yeah,
when you say gas, what type of gas?
So, when you think about trash, if it sits for a while, it breaks down. It's an anaerobic process, meaning once it's out of oxygen, these bacteria start breaking down all the waste in the trash. And it's mostly carbon dioxide and methane, and there's a couple other trace gases in there as well. Hydrogen sulfide is sort of the thing that you would smell, that rotten egg smell. And that's kind of what also the gas company will put into pipes, so if there's a gas leak. But there's some other trace gases in there, but it's mostly methane and carbon dioxide. And so when we capture that, we're preventing greenhouse gases, obviously, but you can generate power from it. So for years, we were actually creating electricity from that gas up until, I believe it was 2016 or 2017. And there was different reasons why we changed that out. There was the lifetime on the engines kind of reached a certain point, and the economics on that project weren't quite as good as they were when it was initially started. And we had, even prior to that, we had looked at, some of the gas we still had was generating called renewable natural gas. So what that means is you take that gas that's coming out of landfill and you clean it up. You're stripping out everything else besides the methane for the most part, and then you put it in the pipeline. So that went online actually this past fall in October. The facility went online, and it's been great for us. So we're expecting to have somewhere between $1 to $2 million a year in revenue from that, which would be incredibly helpful for our organization. To help fund different endeavors that we do at the landfill. And it's basically you're talking like a 98%. Reduction in emissions from the landfill with that too. So you think that gas is no longer being directly vented to the atmosphere. It's no longer being burned through a engine on site or through a flare on site. It's going into the pipeline and just replacing other gas in your homes. Really?
And so how much gas is actually being produced from the landfill?
So there's a term we use. It's called standard cubic feet per minute. It's a industry gas term, and we're typically about 2,700 SCFM so that's how much gas is constantly flowing from the landfill into this system. And the thing I also neglected to mention was our collection trucks. If you see them out on the road, they run on natural gas. So that means now the gas that is produced from our landfill, which is originally trash, goes and fuels those trucks. So those trucks that are picking up your trash are fueled by that trash that was sitting in the landfill for 10, 15 years.
Wow. So what's the lifespan of the gas production for, and how long does it take for the trash to break down to make gas?
Yeah, so it all depends on the material, but there's something called a landfill gas curve, which, if you think about a graph, it's like a 15-year that it goes out. So you put your waste in the landfill, and then for about 15 years, it's still producing gas, and it'll be a sharp increase at first over the years and slowly decline back down. But it's, let's just say you stop the landfill, whether it's in 2040 or some other date, 15 years it's still going to be producing a significant amount of gas. But even after that, there's still gas produced. So Pinelands Park landfill, which some people might know is McCullough's Golf Course over in Egbert Township, that was an old landfill. We currently maintain that now, and that shut down over 30 years ago and is still producing small amounts of gas that we have to manage.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah. So in terms of, you guys have been very creative and really on cutting edge of management of landfill. What are some of the other things that you guys are doing? And you didn't talk about in terms of what kind of income is the gas generating for Atlantic County?
Yeah. Well, so as far as income, it's, roughly we're expecting $1 million to $2 million per year. Like I said, it just went online in October, so we'll kind of see what that looks like, but that's our expectation. And again, that keeps our rates low for municipalities and residents in the county. As far as, cutting edge stuff, that's funny because one of the first things I started at when I move out of the scale house into sort of the project management role.
Now, the scale house is the beginning. As soon as you walk, as soon as you drive in, you weigh your trash.
Yeah.
And so you went from the front of the house all the way to the back of the house.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. And my predecessor.
Congratulations as well.
Thank you. My predecessor also, he started on the back of a truck, went to the scale house, and so we have a good tradition and emphasis on promotion from within and developing our staff to the maximum that they can do. So it's a good organization in that regard for certain. But so I had started when I started in the office. There was a joke, well, Greg's going to be the only one here by the time the landfill closes. So he's going to be the one, responsible for researching these different types of technology and what we can do replacing landfill. And our president too, Matt D'Onofrio, who started around the same time as me, he and I traveled to different places and looked at different technologies. And so, you got a lot of technologies out there that are sort of these magical black boxes where they tell you, hey, you put everything in there and we'll zap it and it'll turn into, like rainbows and energy on the other side. And that's all well and good, but everyone knows with their trash, right? You're throwing everything in there. So, my refrigerator kicks the bucket and all of a sudden the food goes bad. I'm throwing that in there. Someone else is cleaning out their garage and they're throwing out some old trophies or, whatever. It's not all the same, right? And so handling that material is very difficult. So what we found over the last 20 years or so, we've been looking at this is it's really important that you are processing material and sorting out properly so you can kind of get a good product to do something with. One of the technologies we had looked at was called plasma gasification with company NRG Energy. They're one of the largest energy companies in the United States. And what they had thought was, hey, we buy gas and oil and stuff to produce energy. What if someone paid us to take trash and we made energy from that? So they were kind of bullish on that idea and this technology called gasification, which used basically almost like think about lightning, and it was so hot that it stripped all the molecules up and created energy from them. And we got very close with them on doing a project, a demonstration project. It's tough because New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is very strict, right? So they want to make sure we're doing everything right. They issued us solid waste permits, but they weren't inclined to issue us an air permit because they weren't sure what comes out the back end, right? And that's important because you never know. So after several years, we kind of pulled the plug on that one. We couldn't really find ourselves anywhere. But we've issued a couple requests for proposals since then, and we're in the process now. We'll be accepting proposals actually the end of this month on April 1st for another waste conversion project. So we started this way back in, I want to say 2024, issued a request for qualifications to, the entire country, submit sort of general ideas of what you want to do and your history as a company. And based on that, we qualified 3 vendors, and those vendors then submitted a proposal, and those proposals will come in April 1st. So we'll see what's available. Like I said, as we've been through this over several years and iterations, what we find is it's really important that the waste gets processed. So a lot of these technologies think they can handle the waste, but they don't think about the processing ahead of time where you're separating stuff out so you get the right mix of material. And we've seen more emphasis on that now. We've seen companies that come in and understand that. And they're not necessarily as whiz-bang magic science. They're more like, let's put the work in and getting material the way we want it to be, and then do a more basic thing where, you're taking maybe the fibers, the food waste and handling it in more common material methods. So food waste is a big thing. A lot of other countries and even in the United States, you see other areas where they're focusing on food waste diversion. So just like we recycle plastics and metal, keeping your food waste out of the trash is an easy thing to do. And then you can just basically compost that. You can have indoor composting for that. You can create soil and then that renewable natural gas out of that. So could be something like that comes out of this process for us. We'll see what comes back with the proposals. But that's something that, we're very cognizant of and we want to see go forward is getting more things out of the landfill and doing a better job of actually managing the waste instead of just throwing it in a hole.
Greg, with all the stuff you're doing in terms of forward thinking as relates to landfill, there were some rumors at one time or some efforts to talk about a transfer station of the trash, and I would guess that means that you were shipping the trash to other localities other than the county landfill. How would that impact? It wasn't that popular. I don't know if that's still on the horizon or not. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's a couple factors in play there. For starters, there's a policy in place called waste flow, which is in place in many counties in New Jersey, which essentially says, you handle the waste at a specific site in your county, and then that's important, right? Because you want to be sustainable. You want to make sure the waste we're creating, we're going to take care of it properly here. And, in the past, we did transfer waste out before the landfill was finalized. We were sending some waste out. Like I mentioned, at first we were only disposing of construction debris. We were sending out the municipal waste other places. And originally we were supposed to be sending all of our waste to an incinerator in Mercer County, which never got created. But, when you talk about sending waste out now, it's important to realize there's a couple factors which make it difficult. For one thing, the economics. Right now residents pay through their municipal rates about $82 a ton. We've investigated, because we know the landfill has a limited life. We said, well, what would it cost to ship us out? And some of the quotes we got back were, $170 a ton. So you're talking over double the cost. We're sitting here in Atlantic City today. Atlantic City pays roughly $450,000 a year to dispose of their waste, municipal solid waste. If that was shipped out somewhere else, that would be double. So you're talking, close to $1 million as opposed to less than $500,000. That's a big budget item for municipalities. And so we talk with our municipal counterparts every year when we have budget meetings, and, we go through this with them, and they really understand that. Every municipality is hurting right now, whether it's healthcare costs or just, rising, costs for their workers. The budgets are tight. So, we're very cognizant of that, and we do everything we can to keep our rates low. So when you ship it out, that costs go up. But also an important thing to realize is, we're accountable. So if there's a problem, we go before the commissioner board. We talk to the county executive. We talk to the municipalities. I live in Absecon. We had a meeting in Absecon where they came and the public had lots of questions for us because we're a public entity. Once that goes away, that accountability disappears, right? So accountability on rates, accountability on how we're handling it. If you ship that waste somewhere else, ultimately the origin of that waste is still responsible, whether it's the county or the municipality. That goes to a landfill in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and there's an issue there. That bill for cleanup, if there's an issue, comes back to the municipality. Everyone knows the story of that garbage barge that, left New Jersey and just sat off the coast for years. Yeah. So.
That just never would get anywhere, never would disappear.
Right.
Now, tell us what happens with the trash, because, there's a lot of people that's never been to the landfill. I've been there taking, just garbage that I had piled up at the farm or somewhere. So what happens when it leaves the house? What happens to it?
Okay. So, you put out your front curb and our trash trucks come around and collect it, right? And then the trucks take it to our transfer station. So we have a large building. They're dumping on it's called the tip floor there. They dump it in there. We got equipment that's pushing it up, so we have room for all the waste that comes in, makes a nice pile. And then once we get to sundown, we have a separate crew comes in. They're loading those trash bags and everything onto what we call ukes. They're articulated dump trucks. Think of, like heavy yellow equipment that's in quarries, that sort of thing. And they climb up on the hill and they go on the landfill and they're dumping that waste into the landfill at night. And then we have other equipment up there like compactors and dozers, which is, again, compacting the trash, smushing it down so we get it as tight as possible on the landfill working face. And then at the end of the night, we're making sure we cover it all with material. Dirt, we use both what's called clean fill, which is, clean dirt you might use for any project, but also we'll use contaminated soils as long as it meets certain specifications. So think about material from a gas station, right, that's contaminated. We can use that to actually uncover on the landfill as long as it meets certain specifications, which helps us save money because, instead of paying for clean dirt, we're getting paid to use some of that, we call it dirty dirt in the industry.
Well, you're talking about all the different aspects of moving. That sounds like there's a varied jobs through landfill, because a lot of times all we see in the community are, the trash trucks moving, and some of them are picking up trash automatically. Some people are, are actually going and get the cans. So what types of jobs that the landfill has, and are there any available?
Yeah. So outside, like you said, the traditional trash collectors, and the landfill will have, we typically call them operators, different levels. So you'll have guys driving those trucks that basically are going from the landfill or from the transfer station up to landfill and back every day, or they're hauling material at our compost site. It's in basically a large dump truck they're driving around. Then we have higher level operators, which are grading the landfill, so making sure it's the proper height. It's grading to make sure the shape and the height and size of the landfill is proper. You have trucks, ultimately moving material around, compactors, which is, a huge piece of equipment to smush that waste down in a very precise manner. And that happens also a lot at night. So that's a very difficult job to do. Those are sort of the main landfilling of the trash jobs, but we also have what we call landfill gas tech. So to collect the gas, we have all these wells on the landfill. And so someone's going around there checking the wells. Potentially they could get damaged during operations from weather, various things, but they're also what we call tuning the wells to making sure they're pulling the gas at the right vacuum. And then we'll have, technicians. I mentioned we have our wildlife staff at the landfill. At this moment, I don't think there are any jobs in the landfill. We have some collections positions opening up, especially drivers and some temporary handlers for the spring. But it's one of the best things is, like I said, I started in the scale house. My predecessor as vice president started on the back of a truck. It is a good place to come in, start out, and move yourself up. We're very big on educating our workforce. So, any position you want to come in, even if you don't have any skills, you can come in as a laborer or handler. So we also have guys around the landfill picking up litter because obviously stuff gets blown around. You can come as a laborer and learn equipment and be on that equipment.
Now, one of the things that is you also lay membranes on top of it to hold the trash down and then repack it. Yeah. What happens with the weather this year has been horrendous. I haven't seen it like this, and being cold so long and rainy so well and snowy so long. Yeah. How did that impact your work, not only from trash pickup, but also in terms of compacting it?
Yeah, so for trash pickup, obviously everyone saw there was delays, and I would say the good thing is when you have snow, we might be behind a day because we might have to skip the day, but everyone struggles to get their trash to the curb when there's 1.5 feet of snow, so it's easier to catch up on that. At the landfill, it's tough because those conditions up there are never good. When it gets wet, you have mud, and it's just so the equipment is on this slick material, right? So they have to be ultra conscious of not sliding off the working face, not hitting a well. You hit a well, then creates a gas leak, and that's a problem for our collection system and also can create odors. So those are important things to know when that working face is wet and muddy. But also if you get a lot of rain, so going back a few years, we had those periods of heavy rain, and not just a lot of rain, but heavy soaking rain, and that just washes the dirt off, right? So you're constantly having to go back to make sure your material's covered, and that's just an extra step. And we found during that time we got a little extra creative with how we handled it. So we would take some like leaf and brush type material from our compost site and put that on top. That would sort of keep the runoff from happening, which was a good thing we did on the slopes of the landfill. Because if not, you just have washout and you're constantly moving dirt from the bottom of the hill back up every time it rains off, it washes off with the rain. So we got creative on how to handle that. We'll use what's called temporary capping, which is basically like a big tarp we put down. So if we're finished in an area, we can put a tarp down and sandbags on top, and that helps control the erosion as well.
And how do you deal with, making sure the air quality is good for not only the workers, but for the community? Yeah.
So like I mentioned, we have wells around the landfill that collects our gas, and like I said, they're constantly tuned. We have a third-party company, Opal Fuels, who manage our landfill gas system. They do the RNG project for us, and they've been incredibly helpful with their experience in helping us to expand our gas collection system. You have the wells, but you also have something called a header pipe, which every well is attached to a pipe, and that pipe eventually goes back to the cleanup system. And when you have those header pipes, you always want to make sure they're in good condition and they're sized right, because as you add more gas, you're piping more gas through those pipes, and you want to make sure they're sized right. So we did some upgrades on that, going from what we call 12-inch header pipe, which think about it as 12-inch wide, to an 18-inch header pipe. Allows more gas to go through. We created some redundancy in our system, so if something happens, the gas can still flow properly. And we constantly monitor the site. Every day we're operating, we have someone out there checking air quality to making sure we're in compliance. It's a landfill, so you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be smells. You open up your trash can on a hot summer day, you smell it, right? So it's never perfect, but we are doing everything within industry parameters, and we do best management practices nonstop. And there's something we have called an odor management plan, and that's something that usually is typically triggered if you have a couple days where you're over your odor limits. Then we trigger, a couple different things we do. But the reality of how we operate is we do those things daily anyway. So we're not just waiting for there to be a day with high odor. We are constantly doing the things we would have to do every day, checking all of our wells, checking all of our sumps for the liquid in the landfill to make sure everything's the way it needs to be.
So tell me, what fun things happen in the landfill? Is a funny thing happen on the way to the landfill?
Funny. Well, all sorts of stuff. There's sad stories about, people just throwing away the wrong things. Whether it's, a wallet, which obviously, you might lose some money, but you'll be able to get your credit cards back or whatever, but wedding rings, that sort of stuff. And we've had people call and say, hey, I live in Mullock or I live in Eggerborough Township and, I threw this away. And, if it's, we're the ones that happen to collect it. So, there's, at least half a dozen municipalities that we collect the trash in. If we know where they threw it away, we can say, all right, well, it's on this truck. And when that truck comes in, we can dump that truck in a special spot and we'll say, look, you can sign a waiver and come dig through the trash, and they'll find it sometimes. So
oh, really?
Stories,
so they actually, you single out the truck.
Yeah.
I thought you would say you were going to go through and find it. So you
no,
and you allow them to come and go through the trash.
Yeah. So we obviously make sure safety wise, they're away from all the equipment, and they have to agree to be what we're watching, make sure not doing anything dangerous. But we'll kind of let them go through and look to see if they could find it. And people have found stuff that they've lost in there for certain. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
That's like looking for a needle in
absolutely
in a garbage pile.
It is. That's exactly what it is. But it's happened sometimes, and we're glad when there's a good outcome at the end.
Well, I don't know if there's a good outcome at the end. I can imagine how many showers they have to take after they go through all the trash, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if someone would like to at least explore the possibilities of working for the Atlantic County landfill, how would they go about it?
So you can go onto our website, acua.com, and fill in an application. We take applications all the time, whether we're hiring or not. This way we have, a good pool of candidates to put through. So I would suggest going on there. We update every time we have a new position. Like I said, currently we are looking for drivers for our collection trucks, and we're starting to staff up seasonal for the summer help as we obviously get a little busier here in Atlantic County in the summer. Even, like I said, starting as a temporary summer help on the back of a truck can lead to a full-time job in operating heavy equipment on the landfill if you put the effort in. We see that a lot, and that's always, I love sitting in interviews and promoting people from within, and especially seeing the guys and gals who put hard work in. They're working extra, they're putting overtime in, they're learning, and it's a nice feeling to see them put the effort in and succeed, and us being able to promote them. So that's one of the things I love about my job is when we can do that.
Now you have some upcoming events coming up right
Yes.
now since the weather's getting warm. You know we have some large events there at ACUA.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Well, thanks for that, because I had to plug it anyway. So we have our annual Earth Day celebration. I think we're well past 30 years we've been doing this now. And it'll be April 26th, Sunday, 10 to 4. So there'll be vendors there with lots of educational material and fun things for the kids to do. We do tours of our sewer plant as well as the landfill. You may be able to get a tour from me. I'm trying to avoid that. I thought I got out of tours. I thought as vice president I could pick one and choose what I wanted to volunteer for, but apparently not. I still have to do those tours. But it's actually fun. You go on a hayride up to the top of the landfill, which is actually the highest point in Atlantic County, so you can see Atlantic City from there and the airport, and kids will throw hay at each other, and they seem to enjoy it. And some people listen to the information, some people don't, but it's a good time. Like I said, there's lots of food and crafts there. It's a really good event. We get in excess of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people some years if the weather's nice, and it's free.
Wow, that's amazing. And again, that's going to be when?
April 26th from 10 to 4.
And everyone's invited?
Everyone's invited, yes.
And you should take the opportunity to see the process and see. It's very educational to see that. And Greg, you said you thought you were going to get out. Matter of fact, you was a part of my tour when I went there. And so you were a great tour guide, so that ought to be a part your job description. Next time I go to commissioner board, I'm going to see if we can put that in as a part of your job description to be a tour guide. And you're going to be able to tour as well, you said, the sewage treatment plant, which I also had an opportunity to do. That was very educational as well. And you got in there. You have some very innovative things as well. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I think my job title still has other duties as assigned, no matter what. So, when we get VIPs there, I always do a tour for you. But lifting soil bags, it's all sort of falls under the job description. But yeah, the wastewater treatment plant is very interesting. So I do have some experience there in my previous positions. So we have the wind farm, which has been actually, operational for 20 years now, which is pretty amazing to think about that. And, that's about 60% of the energy we use at the treatment plant, which is a very energy intensive process to handle your sewage, is powered by the wind farm, which is great. We were saving, millions of dollars over the course of the project lifetime. We have a solar array there. Was the first actually rooftop and parking lot canopy solar, but that's also 20 years old, and everyone sees solar everywhere now, so it's not as interesting as it used to be. But we've have solar there, and we have a new interesting project that pulls the microplastics out of the sewage.
Let's talk about microplastics, because that's a big issue. With plastics now everywhere getting it, and now they're talking about microplastic being able to get into the food chain, and then also getting it now into your own bodies. And you have a program that's very innovative in pulling the microplastics out of the sewage treatment water, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Tell us a little about that, and without being so technical that we don't understand.
Sure. Well, I won't be able to technical because that's the sewer side, I'm the trash side, so I can explain it as best as I know. Right. So, when you think about even a water bottle, right, that's in a plastic water bottle, eventually that plastic degrades a little bit, and little bits of plastic get in that water or other food containers. That goes into your body, unfortunately, and it goes into the waterways. And so in the sewer, in the sludge that's going through the sewer, there is plastic, lots of little pieces of plastic in there. And what this project aims to do is, this was through a partnership with some, I believe, graduates from Princeton University who had this idea to sort of pull out the plastic. There's different filters in there that, so after the entire sewage process is done, right, so you get to sort of the clean water that's getting discharged into the ocean, that once it's to that level, they have this extra filter level that pulls out the microplastics. And it's only at a sort of demonstration, small-scale project now, but we're actually looking to upgrade that to a larger scale. And I believe we're sort of working with them to kind of maybe potentially help locate that new company here in South Jersey. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's an issue, but it's not something that's really regulated right now. We haven't gotten to that point yet where the state or the federal government is regulating microplastics, but it'll happen because we see the issue with it. We know it's getting to everyone's systems, and we know it's a problem. So that regulation will come, and we'll sort of already be ahead of the curve on that, both in having it at our plant, but also hopefully this company will be, kind of based out of here maybe, and they'll be able to spread their technology throughout the country.
With the rising gas prices and everybody concerned now with the cost of fertilizer, is sludge from the sewage treatment plant, is that something that they could use for fertilizer? What are you doing with the sludge?
So we actually incinerate the sludge at our wastewater treatment plant. We're one of, I believe, 2 or 3 incinerators in the state for sludge. It's not something easy to do, and obviously environmentally people have concerns about it. So there's a lot of permits with that to make sure we're doing it as properly as possible. So we incinerate the sludge, and it creates basically an ashy product, which goes to the landfill and is used mixing with the dirt at the landfill for cover. But other places do use it, can use it. New Jersey does not allow what they call biosolids, which is the sludge, as fertilizer. Other states do. Again, they're kind of concerned with the fact you do have stuff like microplastics and other contaminants in there that would be potentially harmful. Other parts of the country and world do use it. We do not. There's other technologies you could use, anaerobic digestion, which is kind of like composting the sludge. You mix it in with some other material, and you could eventually maybe get some soil amendment out of it. But like I said, New Jersey, they're very cautious about that, just knowing what could potentially be in our sewer.
But we're not the only. Are we the only ones that incinerate the sludge, or other? Are we the only? We're not the only. And so what do they do with their sludge?
So other they'll typically ship other places. So we get sludge from Camden comes up to us, and it's actually helpful for our operations here because it helps subsidize the rate. So if we're getting sludge from our people that, let's say our treatment plant can handle, 20 million gallons a day of sludge. If we're only getting 10 million gallons, we can kind of put more sludge in there, and it keeps that cost low. So typically it gets shipped off to some incinerator, or it gets shipped out of state somewhere. Landfills cannot accept liquid waste from the landfills. So it's a problem, right? We're actually fortunate that we do have an incinerator, both because we can accept others and because we have a stabilized way to handle it in the state, or in the county.
So what about job opportunities at the waste treatment plant?
So it's funny you mentioned that because, we have guys on the collection trucks at the landfill or in the collections that they always want to hop and go to wastewater because they hear that's the golden ticket, get off the road and go to wastewater. There it's a license issue, right? So you have people, there's something called a water pollution control license, which basically allows you to operate the equipment there. And there's different levels, 1, 2, 3, and then I think you go even higher. But if you have that license, you could come in and potentially be an operator of the sewer plant. But there's maintenance jobs there as well, electricians, mechanical maintenance, instrumentation type maintenance on the equipment.
So totally, how many does both the waste treatment plant and the landfill, how many are employed there?
I believe we have about 250 people. Yeah.
Oh, that's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Good number. Well, Greg, I want to thank you so much for coming to be a part of our program. And what you said was very enlightening and informative. And we look forward to the Earth Day and invite everybody to come and be a part of it. You got some free food and free games and a free tour of both facilities. How do they get from one facility to the other one? Is they going to provide transportation from?
Yeah, we have a bus that'll take you over to the wastewater plant.
Okay, well, that's good to mention that you can do all those things, and it's very, very informative, and you will be very surprised and impressed with the workers and the plant and how they operate. I was very impressed when I took a tour as well. Greg, what would you like to give some final words to our listening audience? We'll give you that opportunity now.
No, thank you. Yeah, so please come out on Earth Day, April 26th, 10 to 4 at our landfill in Egbert Township. Love to have you. Hopefully the weather's great. I know the kids always love it. And, as far as solid waste, I'd just say, just remember when you put it out the curb, it goes somewhere, right? So if you can avoid throwing it away, Donate stuff if you can, reuse it. Backyard composting if you can for your food waste. There's a lot of ways to reduce the amount of waste you produce and, kind of get back to a more sustainable lifestyle.
Well, I thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in again to Kingdom Conversations. And I want to thank our guest today, Greg Sayer, for coming and taking his time to be a part of this. And like he said, if you are interested in either one of those as a career, please look at their websites from the ACUA. Thank you again for sharing with us today, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing you same time, same place, Kingdom Conversations. God bless you. And that wraps up another powerful episode of Kingdom Conversations, where faith meets life and purpose is revealed. We pray today's dialogue stirred your spirit, sparked your thinking, and strengthened your walk with God. Remember, the kingdom is not just a place where we're going, it's a way of living here and now. So stay rooted in the Word, stay connected in the community, and stay bold in your faith. If this episode blessed you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join the conversation online and help us spread the kingdom message far and wide. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, keep walking in kingdom purpose. God bless you, and we'll see you next time on Kingdom Conversations.